Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the ultimate financial and environmental playbook for home ownership right here in the Bellevue area. If you own a home around here, well, you already know that keeping it perfectly comfortable is a pretty unique challenge. So we're going to lean on some fantastic hyper-local data from the folks at Peak HVAC Seattle to break down exactly how you should be managing your home's heating and cooling.
Man, it's the ultimate homeowner question, isn't it? We've all felt that sheer, stomach-dropping stress of a sudden HVAC failure. Maybe it happens on a freezing January night, or during one of those rare, absolutely blistering 90-degree Pacific Northwest heat waves where your house just turns into a total oven. Suddenly, you are staring down a massive decision. Do you keep patching up the old unit, or do you finally bite the bullet and replace the whole shebang?
All right, let's map out exactly what we're covering today. First, Bellevue's climate challenge. Second, common HVAC nightmares. Third, the $5,000 replacement rule. Fourth, navigating costs and codes. And finally, the three-step solution. Stick around, and you'll seriously never have to guess about your HVAC system again.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, Bellevue's Climate Challenge.
So here's where a lot of folks get tripped up. Because generic, national HVAC advice, it just doesn't map perfectly to the Pacific Northwest. Bellevue actually sits in a really specific marine climate zone, and that creates some hidden traps for your equipment. Think about our winters. Mild and wet, right? Usually hovering in the 40s. Now you might think mild is a good thing, but actually it means your furnace cycles on and off constantly rather than just running continuously. And that wears out components so much faster than in extreme cold climates. Add to that our crazy spring and fall swings of 20 to 30 degrees, literally forcing your system to bounce wildly between heating and cooling. Then, when those rare but severe summer heat waves in the 90s do hit, older systems are pushed completely past their breaking points. Oh, and we can't forget the marine air. If you're near the waterfront, say down around Meydenbauer Bay or Anatai, that moisture from Lake Washington causes condensation issues and some really nasty premature corrosion.
Because our weather stays relatively moderate year-round, the way our equipment ages is completely unique. Traditional furnaces face extended seasonal wear. They run for way more months out of the year here than they do in other parts of the country. But heat pumps, since they handle both the heating and the cooling, they are working for you all year long, no off-season whatsoever, which means they experience continuous, unceasing wear and tear. Moving right along to Section 2, Common HVAC Nightmares.
We know the outside environment is pretty tough on the equipment, but let's talk about what actually breaks down inside the home when it's pushed to the limit. The technicians at Peak HVAC Seattle see the exact same nightmares repeating across Bellevue neighborhoods. First up, undersized AC units. A ton of homes, especially older ones over in areas like Crossroads, have ACs sized only for average summers. So, heatwave hits, they run nonstop without actually cooling the house. Second, like we touched on, those corroded outdoor condensers from the salty marine moisture. Third, and please pay attention to this one because it's a major safety issue, cracked heat exchangers in furnaces older than 15 years. All that constant on and off cycling causes the metal to crack, creating a very real risk of carbon monoxide leaking right into your living room. And finally, inadequate retrofit ductwork. Older homes that started with baseboard heating often get ductwork squeezed in later. The result? Uneven heating, massive strain on the blower, and just excessive, annoying noise.
Before you start panicking, though, I've got an absolute golden rule for you. An insider secret that can save you thousands of dollars. It's called the 3-minute rule. If your air conditioner shuts off, you must wait at least 3 full minutes before turning it back on. Why? Well, this delay lets the refrigerant pressure equalize between the high and low sides of the system. If you try to restart it too quickly, you're forcing the compressor to fight against incredibly high pressure. That strains the motor and can actually cause total premature failure. Now, most modern thermostats have this built in, but knowing this rule yourself can quite literally save you from buying a completely new compressor.
That brings us perfectly to Section 3, the $5,000 replacement rule.
This is arguably the most critical decision a homeowner makes. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, please remember the $5,000 rule. It's a heuristic that completely strips the emotion and guesswork right out of a stressful breakdown. You just multiply the age of your system in years by the estimated cost of the repair. If that number comes out higher than $5,000, it's financially wiser to replace the whole unit rather than throwing good money after bad.
Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Say you've got a system that's 12 years old, and the tech tells you it needs a $500 repair. Okay, 12 times 500 is $6,000. Since $6,000 is greater than $5,000, the math is essentially screaming at you, it is time to replace.
Older units lose their efficiency so fast, and fixing an aging unit is really just delaying the inevitable. This simple little calculation empowers you to make a really smart, objective choice right there on the spot.
All right, let's talk money in Section 4, navigating costs and codes. So, you did the math and you need a replacement. Let's look at the hard numbers and see what these jobs actually cost in Bellevue right now. Minor repairs? They'll range from about $150 to $2,000, depending on if it's just a simple capacitor or a major heat exchanger fix. A basic AC or furnace replacement sits between $3,500 and $6,000. Now, if you have a standard 2,000 square foot house and you need to replace both heating and cooling, you're looking at somewhere between $7,000 and $14,000. And a full system with brand new ductwork? That pushes past $15,000. But keep in mind, your specific home design makes a huge difference here. A sprawling mid-century rambler is going to have vastly different ductwork needs and labor costs compared to, say, a modern 2-story house. And a quick insider tip for you to keep some of that cash in your pocket. Timing is absolutely everything. The best deals on HVAC replacements always happen in the off-seasons. We're talking October and November right before the deep cold sets in, or early spring. If you wait until your system totally dies during a July heat wave or a January freeze, you're going to be fighting everyone else for appointments and paying peak panic pricing.
Now, you might notice some of these base costs are a bit higher here than the national average. Why is that? Well, it all comes down to the number 95. The Washington State Energy Code actually mandates that any new furnace installed must have a minimum 95% AFUE rating. That just means 95% of the fuel has to be converted directly into usable heat for your home. Washington prioritizes energy conservation heavily. And sure, while this mandate drives up your initial installation costs because you literally can't buy cheap, low-efficiency options, it guarantees you massive, long-term energy savings on those utility bills.
Similarly, 14 is the magic number for air conditioners. Washington requires a minimum 14 SEER rating, which is just the measurement of cooling efficiency for all new residential ACs. Once again, local laws strictly exceed the federal minimums. This is exactly why generic, national advice fails Bellevue homeowners. You legally have to install high-quality, high-efficiency equipment here, which means pulling proper permits and passing city inspections.
I know those high-efficiency replacement costs can sting a bit, but here's the good news. You have to take advantage of the financial incentives out there right now. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, which goes all the way through 2032, you can grab up to $2,000 in federal energy tax credits for qualifying systems, especially heat pumps. You can also get up to $600 back for necessary electrical panel upgrades. And the best part? These are completely stackable with local Puget Sound energy rebates. If you layer all of these, it drastically lowers your out-of-pocket investment. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the 3-step solution. When you're juggling all these costs, local codes, and weird climate challenges, how do you actually get the work done without losing your mind? Well, Peak HVAC Seattle has stripped it down to a really straightforward 3-step process. Step 1, contact and dispatch. You call, and they get a Bellevue specialized tech out to your house fast, often within an hour if it's an emergency. Step 2, diagnosis and approval. They find the root problem and hand you a written quote. And this is the crucial point. Upfront flat rate pricing happens right here, before a single tool is lifted. You are in complete control of the spend. Finally, Step 3 is repair and testing, where the system gets fixed, thoroughly tested against Bellevue's strict codes, and guaranteed.
I actually really love this quote from the Peak HVAC team. They say, "What separates us from national chains is simple. We're accountable to this community. Our reputation depends on your satisfaction, not corporate metrics." And honestly, when you're dealing with Bellevue-specific municipal permits, our unique housing stock, and our coastal microclimates, having a local team that genuinely understands the difference between a house on a Surrey Downs hillside and a Meydenbauer waterfront, it makes all the difference in the world.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on today. Is your system truly ready for the next Bellevue heat wave or winter freeze? Or is it quietly failing right now, losing efficiency day by day behind the scenes? Don't wait for the absolute panic of a breakdown. Run the $5,000 rule, check up on your maintenance schedule, and take control of your home's comfort today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep learning.